Here's the story. Back in 2009, I had an amazing, life-changing opportunity to spend 3 weeks in Kauai. I had relatives that were living there at the time, and they had beautiful guest house that I was able to stay in, and I had all to myself. And up in the mountains in the jungle of Kauai, it was absolutely stunning. I was going through a really hard time in my life at that point. Things were pretty stressful. I'd just been diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. I was raising my daughter. She was in her teens. My husband's disabled with combat veteran PTSD, and I was just stressing right out. I'm Buddhist. I've been a Buddhist since the year 2000, and I had the opportunity to go to Kauai and do a 3-week meditation retreat, which I was just absolutely over the moon about. So here goes the story. I get on the airplane, and typical flight, it wasn't that bad. I get off the airplane in Kauai, and I have never experienced beauty like I have there. As soon as you step out of the airport, which actually it's an open airport, instead of smelling smog and disgusting cars, diesel and stuff, I smelled flowers. As soon as I got off the airplane, I was like, oh, I am in heaven. And the weather was really good. It wasn't too hot. It was muggy, but it was bearable. And I had my relatives standing there waiting for me, which was my mother-in-law. She is the love of my life. She replaced my mother, and my mother passed away when I was young, and she's just been absolutely amazing. So she's standing there waiting for me with a fresh brand new made lei of flowers for my neck, and it was just, even just that was just bliss. I was like, what am I walking into? Like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, you live here? And she's like, welcome to Kauai. Kauai is known as the Garden Island, and it's supposed to be, I haven't been to any of the other islands, but it's beautiful in Kauai. If you haven't been there, you definitely should go. It's just stunning. So she picks me up, we're at the airport, and I'm there ready to do my meditation retreat. I'm all gung-ho. I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking spas, massages. I was like, woohoo, I thought I was going on a spa retreat. Well, let me tell you, it was not a spa retreat. She picks me up at the airport, and we head straight to our ashram, which is a church, for a Buddhist church. And they're having a special ceremony that day, and I was lucky to have arrived just in time. And I get in there, and I get into this beautiful meditation hall, all made of marble, and I was just completely blown away by the beauty of everything, okay? So I'm in this room with like 25 people I don't know, I've never met before, and I was shoved a pillow and sit down. And I was like, okay, I'm ready for this. And I'd done quite a bit of meditation, over the years. This was in 2009, so I had 9 years, behind me. But boy, I thought I thought I knew what I was doing. Boy, was I wrong. Anyway, so we're sitting there, and, everybody's doing their thing. It's dead silent. You don't sneeze, you don't cough. You're just totally zoned, quiet. Don't breathe too heavy. And I just got off the airplane. I've got bad back, I've got bad hips, and I think I managed to sit for about an hour. And it was so embarrassing. I had to quietly crawl out on my knees out the door and shut the door as quietly as possible and just not to interrupt everybody. And I just immediately went, sat down, and burst out crying. I was so upset with myself that I couldn't sit there. And, all these people were dedicated and whatnot. So I sat outside and had a cry, had a smoke, which was absolute no, no. But I did. And then my mother in law came out quietly and she said, "Come on, come back in." So I came back in and I managed to sit for, I don't know how long it was. I think it was another 2 hours. And it was a very, very moving, unbelievable experience. I was able to get past my pain of my back and my hips and able to really get into the deep meditation, which I thought I had experienced before, but I had never experienced anything like it until that point. So, anyways, that came and gone, and we got that done, and we had a beautiful dinner that night, and the first week of my vacation was just absolutely amazing. I spent, a lot of time doing self-reflection, meditation, lots of meditation, sun tanning, swimming. At the time I was completely changing my diet as well. I'd gone from eating crap a week before to being completely raw, vegetarian, vegan, except for my coffee in the morning. And it was so nice having my own guest house to stay in. Like, you just don't ever, you don't get that opportunity. I'll never have that opportunity again in my life, and I am so grateful for it. Anyways, so after a week into it, I'm finding that, my emotions and my brain and you wind up becoming very sensitive, very intuitive, very clear, very aware of what's going around you, higher realms, just the littlest things. Like I was noticing the trees and the leaves, and everything was so beautiful. It was almost as if I was like high or something, but I was high on life. It was just wild. So I would say about, yeah, it was into my second week staying in the cabin, and I was up late reading and just chilling out and whatnot. And I started noticing odd noises around the building, inside the building, tappings and scratchings, and I didn't think too much of it because I knew that there was wild pigs. There's a lot of wild pigs in Kauai, and they were always running around, the perimeter of the cabin and whatnot. So I just tried to ignore it and whatnot. But I started to get nervous. All my life I've had this, I have some kind of gift. I don't know what it is. I'm not clairvoyant. I don't know. I'm not psychic. But I have something. I'm able to predict things just before they happen. I can feel when there's entities around me. Every now and I can hear voices talking to me. I've had relatives that have passed away come to me, and I've actually seen them, like standing in front of me. Odd things, very just odd things. So I started to get this feeling that I wasn't alone. Um, yeah, I wasn't alone, and I kept, Okay, so sorry about that. My camera cut out. As I was saying, I was feeling and knowing that I was being watched. I just know it. I've had it all my life. I just know. I don't know how to explain it, but I just do. So I was reading a book at the time, and I just did the best I could to ignore it. I just ignored it. Had every light in the place on. And this is, so the week 2, we're into, say, the middle of week 2. And I'm sitting there, it's probably about 1 in the morning, and I'm scared to go to sleep. And I hear a plate in the kitchen, it had a little kitchenette, go flying and hit the floor. And so I froze, and froze. I just was like, stayed in my bed, frozen. And then I wound up finally falling asleep that night, and got up in the morning, and the plate was laying on the floor in the kitchen, not broken, but just laying there on the floor. And I thought, oh, well, it must have slipped off the counter, or who knows what was what, right? So next day comes along, and more activity starting to happen each night. More and more things are starting, more bangs, more noises. We had a Buddhist altar in there, so I had the candles lit, I had the incense going, I had meditation music playing, everything to try and keep it calm in there, try to keep myself calm. And at this point I'm still thinking, okay, well, maybe it's just all in my head. Well, let's just say it was like Thursday on week 2. But I don't know what time it was, midnight, 1 in the morning, some hour. The doors to the cabin were French doors, glass French doors, okay? So I had all the lights on in the cabin, and the lights were off outside, so I couldn't see outside. I'm sitting in bed, and where I was sitting, I had a direct view to the French doors. And I look up at the French doors. I don't know why, I just did. I just looked. And I swear on my mother's grave, there was how do I put it? A native tribal man from long ago, like hundreds of years ago, standing there inside the door. Just standing there staring at me. He had bones in his nose, the bone necklace thing going on. He was dark, and in full gear, like full native attire of some sort, leather something. It wasn't native from North America. It was almost something like you'd see in Africa. It was really weird. And I just froze. I just sat there, staring at it. And it stood there, staring back at me. Probably for a good 30 seconds, but it seemed like it was like a half an hour. Just stared. No facial expressions, no movement, just stood there, staring at me. And it took everything in my power to close my eyes and just lay down. I laid down, closed my eyes, face down on my stomach, head in my pillow, and started deep breathing. And I'm shaking, like the whole bed was just shaking. And I don't know how long I maybe I sat there for about 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and I had the nerve to get up and look back, and he was gone. And wow, that was a trip, absolute trip of my life. But it gets better. I managed to fall asleep, and nothing else happened that night. And so the next morning, I get up and I go and I tell my father-in-law, who was very very spiritual person and very Buddhist. He spent his entire life practicing, and I told him what was going on, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's just our." They called it the lychee tree spirit, which the whole area around beside the cabin was full of lychee trees. It's a type of tree in Hawaii. And I was like, oh, okay. So you know who this is? You know about this? They're like, oh yeah, he lives here basically. This was his land at one point in time, and they were like, well, I guess he's just checking you out, make sure, checking to see who you are, why you're here. And so that night, my father-in-law went and slept in the cabin, and I went and slept in the main house. And he did a special cleansing of the cabin. He did sage and incense and whatever he did. Walked all around the cabin and purified it, basically. And spent the night there, and came to me the next day and said, everything's fine. No, he didn't come to me. I didn't have any problems. Everything should be fine. I'm like, okay. So I felt better. I was like, all right, phew, he's fixed the problem. So, and he gave me an iPod full of meditation music and Sanskrit music to listen to and whatnot. And he said, just play this on the iPod player, and it will help you sleep, and it will just keep the place calm and settled, and the spirit will know that you're not there to do any harm. So that next night I went and I put the iPod in the machine, and it had its iPod stand, which was on a wicker table on the other side of the room from the bed. And that night was, a little bit interesting. I was laying there again in bed, trying to go to sleep, but I had all the lights on because I was scared. And it was a futon bed, okay? Like a brand new futon bed. And we all know futon beds are like hard as a rock. It's like sleeping on cement. And it was on wooden lats, so there was no bounce or give or anything to the bed. And I'm laying there, and it was like a queen size, I guess, and beside me, the entire bed indented in as if somebody had sat down beside me. And it would have been, like, if it was a real person, it would have had to have been somebody really heavy to sit there and make that indentation. And I, like, shit my pants. Well, not really, but I was like, oh my God. I screamed and I yelled for it to just go away, leave me alone. And, the indentation went away, and I thought that it was gone, and I was, laying there, and I was dozing off, and I could still feel the presence. I just knew it was still there. And just as I was dozing off, I could feel the weight of somebody laying on top of me, but not completely, just a slight pressure all down my body. And I had my eyes closed, and I was laying on my back, and I opened my eyes, and his face, I will never forget this, his face was right here. Right here. I opened my eyes, his eyes were right in my face. And that lasted, for a few seconds. And then I blinked again and closed my eyes again and blinked again, and it poofed. It was gone. So, yeah, that was really, really scary. So we're now into like week 3, my last week there, and I think it was really close to. It was close to my time to come home. It was like, and plus in between though, I had nights where I was fine. Everything was great. Wonderful sleeps. Things were totally cool. The final straw though was, it was the night before I came home. The final straw was the iPod player. I had the iPod playing, and it was playing this beautiful chanting music that we would listen to meditate. And it was sitting on a little wicker table, okay, in an iPod player on the other side of the room from the bed. And I'm laying there again, and I'm trying to sleep, and all of a sudden the desk, the iPod table was smashed, like bam, as if if a man had have hit it, they would have completely broken the table and the iPod, because it was flimsy and I could have smashed it and would have broken the iPod and the table and whatnot. And it was like bam, and the iPod stopped playing. I look over, there's nothing there. There was nothing there. And the table was fine, but the iPod was off. So that was the final straw. I grabbed my pillow. It was probably about 2 a.m. Grabbed my pillow and I ran up to the main house and slept on the couch in the main house. And I was terrified, absolutely terrified. And but I tried to make very light of it because I didn't want to upset my in-laws. I didn't want them knowing that I was really, really scared and what was really, really going on. But this spirit was definitely not happy that I was there. But the strangest thing is I have a friend in England who is a young boy. I'm in my 40s. He's probably about 19, 20 now. At the time, he was about 13. The very next day, I got a Facebook message from him out of the blue. Okay, this boy is a clairvoyant, psychic. He is absolutely incredible. The powers that this kid has. Anyways, out of the blue, he messages me and says, the spirit last night just wanted me to let you know. And I'm like, what? How do you even know what's going on? I hadn't told him anything. That he was just checking you out, and that he just wanted to make sure that you weren't going to harm the place because it was his land and it was his place. Yeah. Pretty scary shit. Pretty scary shit. And the whole time we were there, like every time we went places and traveled around the island and went to the beach and all that, he was with me. The spirit was with me. I knew he was with me. I could feel him tagging along, just tagging along with me. And I was really, really nervous that I was going to bring it home with me. But I didn't, luckily. Thank God. And so he's still there in Kauai in his lychee tree. Stay in your lychee tree, spirit. But yeah, that was one of my paranormal stories, and absolutely mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. That was one of the most scariest experiences I've had where it was violent. It was obvious I was not wanted there. And, the fact that I was trying to be meditative and religious, and I was trying to open myself up and change my ways and improve my life, and it was just not happy I was there. So, anyways, yeah. So that's my story for that. That is my Kauai lychee tree spirit. So, stay tuned. Please subscribe if you like my story. Leave a comment. Unfortunately, I can't give you proof or live footage or anything like that. It's from a long time ago. Yeah, I can't do that, but you just have to take my word for it. And, but yeah, it was an amazing story. Amazing story. And the fact my father-in-law was so cool about it, he's like, yeah, that's just the way he is. So, anyways, thank you for watching, and stay tuned. I got so many more to tell you. Yeah, subscribe, hit the button below, please, and spread the word. Spread the word. Have a good night, and we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.